Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today I want to talk about Battlefield 2042's playtest leaks, data mines, and generally what I think about all of it. As a Battlefield veteran, do I think the game looks good, or does it look like it's going to have a rough time bringing the Battlefield community on board? Also, today DICE just revealed a cool new trailer showing off Irish a bit more with some gameplay and his deployable shield. He looks like a fun class to play, and I'm really starting to get on board with all of these class-specific gadgets, and it's something I want to talk about a bit later in the video based on the leaked footage. Why don't we start off with some of the most exciting new info, and that's the data mined information that Temporal has provided us, specifically in relation to the Hazard Zone game mode. Again, this isn't official info, but I'm going to talk about it as if what Temporal has uncovered is most likely what we will be playing with Hazard Zone. So as far as we can tell, this new game mode seems similar to Escape from Tarkov, Hunt Showdown, Vigor, possibly the Cycle. And if you're unfamiliar with survival shooters, it's where players acquire guns and gear that they can potentially keep from one round to the next, provided that you don't die, or in this case, you get loadout insurance. In this mode, you and your squad will be dropped off into combat via a little bird. From there, you'll have objectives to find intel from data drives and crash satellites. It seems like there will be other objectives as well, like ammo stations and uplinks. At these locations, you'll be able to call in things like a Ranger, aka the Robot Dog, or the HDT Storm, aka an ATV. There also seems to be a respawn mechanic as well, which may be linked to these stations. You will likely encounter enemy AI who are both on foot and in vehicles, such as the EBRC Jaguar and the ATV. The AI may also be able to call in reinforcements, and there will likely be AI bosses as objectives as well. To exit a match with your gear and or rewards, you will need to make it to an extraction zone where a helicopter will come to pick you up. An extraction can fail if you miss the helicopter. There will also be a Hazard Zone currency, which will probably be used to expand your weapons and perk collection between matches. And some of the upgrades that Temporal found that you should be able to get are spotting duration, starting armor, loadout insurance, satellite info, deploy speed, extra respawn beacons, extra intel storage, throwable ammo, faster healing, ammo increase, bonus AI rewards, bonus intel rewards. It also looks like Hazard Zone will be playable on most maps as it's supported on the playtest map Orbital. And with all of this information, I personally think it sounds like a really fun concept. I have absolutely enjoyed Hunt Showdown, I enjoyed the Cycle, I enjoyed playing Vigor, and there's no denying that Escape from Tarkov, arguably the most popular survival shooter, has built a diehard following as well. So for Battlefield to compete in this space is a bit more exciting than just making a straight battle royale. That being said, DICE, if you want to take another crack at Firestorm, I'm game for that as well, but this is certainly exciting. Also, with this game's visuals, vehicle mechanics, and allegedly top-tier AI, it could be an extremely engaging mode. I think we can also make the assumption that PvP will be a major factor here, and that there will likely be round timers to keep people moving forward towards objectives instead of camping all game. With Battlefield's tech, this could easily be one of the best survival shooters yet. Integrating Battlefield's gunplay into a hardcore experience on an extremely large-scale map, navigating around and trying to be quiet or stealthy using suppressors and gear and gadgets to try and aid you, sounds like an absolute blast. And I think EA could really become a top competitor in this space pretty much overnight once the mode launches. The biggest questions I have left regarding this mode are, will it be free to play, and how will it integrate to the base game? Like, can you get cool cosmetic unlocks through Hazard Zone and achievements that will be able to be used in the base game? Because that would be kind of a cool marriage between the two modes. Will I be able to unlock weapons in the base mode that I can then potentially use in Hazard Zone? It'll be interesting to see if there's any clever integrations, or if it'll literally just be Hazard Zone using some of the base game's maps. Now, what's so cool about all this Battlefield 2042 info is that as excited as I am for Hazard Zone, I'm possibly more excited for the base game of Battlefield 2042 now that I've seen all this leaked footage and info from the playtest. And again, I'm making a lot of assumptions based on the leaked footage, but there was a lot of leaked footage for anyone who wanted to get an idea of how the game plays, and you could watch essentially hours worth of gameplay. two big things that stood out to me was the apparent lack of clutter on the orbital map and the scale. I don't know if DICE decided to reduce map clutter to improve the overall visibility, or if it's done in an attempt to improve FPS, or if it's just the style of the orbital map, but regardless, I like it. The more recent previous Battlefield games have really gone heavy on map clutter, making target acquisition tricky and just downright annoying at times. Orbital looks clean by comparison, and I don't anticipate too much dark corner camping or cheesy visibility spots to camp out your opponent. Again, there's no way to know if this is the result of an unfinished map or if this style will persist across other maps, but I really hope it does. Now, soldier and weapon animations from what I saw looks clean as well, and the gunplay looks solid, and it looks like there's a fairly fast TTK. I was expecting to see some footage of massive looking battles since the playtest was 128 player servers, but I didn't really see anything showing huge firefights. Again, this is quite possibly by design. I think ideally you would want the pacing and flow to feel similar to past Battlefield games, and the 128 player experiences should really only show themselves every once in a while with a truly massive firefight or battle, but so far all the stuff I saw didn't really show any moments that seemed more indicative of a massive player count. And this is definitely one of the bigger question marks I have about the game, and frankly, if I'm not seeing footage that looks too cluttered, well, that's generally a good thing. I'm just really curious to see how it plays out overall, because if DICE went through a huge amount of work to add 128 players to a server and it ultimately doesn't seem to have that big of an impact on gameplay, people may be asking themselves, well, is it worth it? Was it even worth making all this effort to add double the amount of players if it still feels like kind of the same experience overall? And of course, the 128 player count could be wildly different depending on the mode, such as the breakthrough mode where people are all fighting on a front line. In that case, I could imagine 128 players feeling very different from Conquest. Again, this is something that people are just going to have to really play out in the beta and figure out for themselves, but it is something that I thought was interesting based on how much footage I watched and saw. I just didn't see any battles that looked truly massive by comparison to the previous Battlefield games. Now, something that was really hard to tell from the gameplay footage, especially since people are playing at different field of views, but it appears that movement speed may be faster than previous games. This would make sense if the maps are really that much bigger, but again, it's really hard to tell from the footage, so this will have to be another thing that we test during the beta. I didn't notice anything that looked off-putting from the movement speed. Maybe it's just a trick of the FOV. If you have a wider FOV, it can make it look like you're moving through the world much quicker, but again, it did just from the footage look like people were moving through the world at a faster clip. Now, the Weapon Plus system, I gotta say, does look cool. I know I had my reservations about it earlier, but seeing somebody mod a gun on the fly to better suit the combat on hand is very cool, and I just can't deny it. Initially, I was thinking that it detracted from kit planning and having to rely on more different classes for different ranges, but because the orbital map just looks absolutely massive, well, it's probably going to be a nice thing to have the ability to at least tweak your weapon to suit different ranges on the fly. Now, the UI looks clean and very much like Battlefield 4. I'm also going to assume that there will be some fairly extensive UI customization options as well, if the game is anything like the previous Battlefield games, and I'm quite excited about modding it. Also, I noticed from some of the leaked helicopter gameplay that pilots now get bailout points and kill points for somebody who bails out of a vehicle during a dogfight and dies on the ground. So not only do you get the bailout points for forcing somebody to bail out of their vehicle, but if they die, you now get the kill point from it. This is something that I've been rallying on for a long time, and as minor of a quality of life improvement as this seems, it's going to make a massive difference in the piloting world, and it's going to greatly reward pilots for trying to keep the skies clear. This is great for infantry players too, because if you want the pilots on your team to try and just focus on other aircraft and taking them out of the sky, well, now those pilots are going to get rewarded better for performing that role. Now, when it comes to weapon variety, Temporyal's data mine of the weapons in the playtest looks absolutely fantastic. There's a ton of guns there. I didn't see as much weapon variety in the leaked footage, so there might just not be that many weapon options in the playtest yet, but I don't anticipate anyone complaining about the lack of the guns in the game based on the data mine, especially if classic weapons from Bad Company in 1942 are returning via Portal. Now, the grappling gun was probably the most used gadget that I saw from the footage. Players seem to be using it quite a lot, and it looks like most rooftops are going to be quite active with assault players. This sounds like quite a bit of fun, and honestly, it now looks easy to get up on a roof and deal with campers versus having to do the classic Battlefield 3 climb up a ladder into a scout class's claymore waiting for you at the top. This is going to change up that dynamic drastically. It also makes me think twice about the other gadgets being shown off in the trailer, like the wingsuit and deployable shields, because I think they're going to bring a lot to Battlefield's gameplay. I actually think the gadgets might affect the average experience more so than just about anything else in the game, so this will be something really interesting to watch with both the beta and the launch of the game. Gadgets have the potential to mix up the gameplay in serious ways and offer new tactical options. I can't wait to see what kind of new meta emerges from all these gadgets being added to the game, and this really takes like future DLC and added content to the next level. Before, you would get, 5 new weapons and they'd be interesting, but they probably wouldn't change up the gameplay too drastically. Well, new operators with interesting gadgets might actually change up the gameplay in very significant ways, so it's going to make every bit of DLC that much more interesting. So overall, my opinions for 2042 so far are excitement through the roof. Sure, there seems to be a bunch of performance issues with the playtest, not to be unexpected, also not something that DICE even wanted the public to see in the first place, as they're testing probably lots of back-end stuff with the playtest more so than the gameplay itself. The beta will probably be a much bigger and more important benchmark of what we can expect before launch, and I gotta say, I'm just pumped. Everything that DICE is either announcing or getting leaked about the game has me excited. The decisions seem like smart decisions. The nuanced stuff seems like really good additions to the game. It seems like they've taken a lot of feedback from what players did or didn't like about previous Battlefield games and integrated it to this one. Hazard Zone seems like an absolute win. DICE seems like they're putting a lot of work behind it as well, so conceptually I'm on board, and if the production quality and balance matches with the concept, then I think players are in for a real treat. I'm usually one to say temper your expectations, especially given DICE's history with Battlefield games and, well, frankly, just the inconsistency of their game quality, especially at launch. There's still a possibility that we're going to have some massive performance issues with this game at launch. Who knows? But I can't hide the fact that I'm getting really pumped for everything that's being added to this game. It could very well be one of the best Battlefield games ever made, and I can't wait to play the beta. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Have you been inhaling all the leaked footage as much as I have? Have you been staying away from it because you just want to play the game when it launches and you just don't want it to be ruined for you? Let me know, guys, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.